This week, Anthony Hopkins enters the life of a troubled youngster in Stephen King's Hearts in Atlantis.
Alan Alda defends an Attica convict accused of murder in The Killing Yard.
And Danny Aiello oversees chaos in the kitchen during the dinner rush.
And why are they hot on your trail?
Certain something I happen to have.
Anthony Hopkins is a mysterious stranger with special gifts who's eluding some men in black in Hearts in Atlantis. Plus, we'll have a special report from the Toronto Film Festival. I'm Roger Ebert.
And I'm Richard Roeper. Hearts in Atlantis is based on a series of stories by Stephen King, and it's closer in spirit to Stand By Me than The Shining or Carrie. There are some chilling scenes and some cloak and dagger layered with elements of the supernatural, but this is essentially a lovely, heart-clenching story about an 11-year-old boy coming of age in 1960. Anthony Hopkins gives an Academy Award caliber performance as the sad-eyed Ted Brodigan, the new boarder living upstairs from single mother Elizabeth, played by Hope Davis.
Ma'am?
How do you do? I'm Elizabeth Garfield, and this is my son, Robert, and it's very nice to meet you, Mr. Bradigan, but Tempest Fugit?
Oh, it's Brodigan, ma'am, but Ted will be fine with me.
That's Anton Yelchin as Bobby, and he's quite effective in conveying that awkward blend of self-aware shyness and burgeoning confidence in boys of his age. Ted is a kindly mentor most of the time, but occasionally he succumbs to spells and visions.
Ted, you can't die on me.
Bobby's first romance is tempered by his dealings with a cruel and violent neighborhood bully, and then he's got to deal with his mother, who's very bitter. In fact, she's so worn down at 35 that she's almost forgotten how to love her own son. And then there's the matter of these so-called low men who Ted claims are pursuing him. Now, the great veteran screenwriter William Goldman weaves all of these stories into a brilliant script, and the cast is uniformly excellent. Hearts in Atlantis is an effectively offbeat nostalgia trip.
Boy, it sure is. And you know, Goldman's screenplay, which is so nicely constructed, is very similar to the novel, except that the novel and the movie have slightly different implications about the low men, but it doesn't matter because the low men are basically the MacGuffin.
Yes.
They're just somebody that you have to look out for and be aware of that allows Bobby to find out about Ted's supernatural powers and at the same time help him to grow up into the real world, which is not always going to be a real nice place to live in. This is a lovely, lovely movie.
And there's a wonderful monologue that Anthony Hopkins does about seeing a football game, seeing the great Bronco Nagurski.
Oh, I could see
that
Nagurski.
is one of the best scenes in any movie I've seen in a long time.
Comes out of retirement, carries that ball. I could see that game on the screen. You know, the movie was directed by Scott Hicks, who made Shine and Snow Falling on Cedars, which are two of the best looking movies of recent years. And once again here, his visual eye is so great in terms of creating this world in which these people live.
Yeah, terrific movie.
Okay, our next movie is one that you can watch at home. The Killing Yard plays starting Sunday, September 23rd on Showtime Cable. This is a movie that tells the story of the September 1971 massacre of prisoners at New York's Attica State Prison and the subsequent attempt by law enforcement and state officials to frame the convicts for the deaths of hostages who were actually killed by police sharpshooters. Alan Alda stars as Ernie Goldman, the chief defense attorney, and Morris Chestnut as Shango, an inmate accused of murder.
Do you have any idea what a disaster having you testify could be?
I don't care. Win or lose, I'm putting the facts into the public record.
It's all based on fact. The prisoner staged a revolt and demanded to talk to New York Governor Nelson Rockefeller. Rocky said he would come to the prison, but instead dispatched sharpshooters who, on direct orders, fired into the prison yard. The state said the prisoners slit the throats of their hostages. Goldman calls the coroner, whose original autopsy showed the hostages were shot.
Do you know the reason why the Corrections Commission brought in Dr. Baden and the others?
They wanted to blame the inmates.
Attica was the bloodiest massacre of Americans by Americans since the Civil War. The movie's director is Yuzan Palsi, whose A Dry White Season got a nomination for Marlon Brando. It was about official crimes in South Africa. Her new film, The Killing Yard, hits closer to home, telling the story as a straightforward courtroom drama with dramatic flashbacks and Alda and Chestnut establishing a strong emotional bond as two men who learn to trust each other and to trust the court system.
And Rose McGowan is really good here. She's usually in like the teen scream movies, kind of over the top, but a nice understated performance. And you know, it only took about 27 years for that settlement to come through for the families. I think that's one of the reasons people don't realize what happened there, because it just, you know, the time kept going on and people forgot about what happened or wanted just to believe a simpler, easier explanation for this, which is the prisoners are the bad guys and the cops were the heroes and the troopers came in and saved the day, and that's not what happened.
This is a shocking chapter in American history when Nelson Rockefeller and people under his command shot people in cold blood, including the 8 guards who were hostages, and then tried people for the murder of those people after lying about how they died.
Not just shocking, but shameful. Alan Alda, you know, playing a liberal, people try to say, oh, that's a soft, weak character. And he was so brave, this character that he plays, this real-life lawyer who was an advocate, and so strong in the face of things. Again, in his town, people wanted to forget what happened, and he wouldn't let them forget.
And Alan Alda doesn't do his Alan Alda-isms. No. It's not MASH. It's not MASH. It's a real good performance from the ground up of a quiet, determined man who's fighting against an illness and denies the illness because he wants to get through this trial.
Very strong piece of work. Okay, coming up later in the show, a special report on the Toronto International Film Festival. And coming up next, Danny Aiello is a maestro at orchestrating the dinner rush.
I've had this restaurant for longer than you've been alive. And I still have it. And it's my money.
People squeeze through that door because of my food, not because it's your place.
Danny Aiello is a rigatoni guy with a Nouvelle Cuisine son in Dinner Rush, the best movie about the restaurant business I've seen since Big Night. Eduardo Ballerini's cocky Udo is hitting his stride in modern-day New York, where a hot chef is almost like a rock star. But his father still owns their Tribeca restaurant, so the crowd is a colorful clash of old-school types and trend-sniffing hipsters.
Can I start you off with a drink, sir?
We asked for a bottle of Brunello, the Montalcino 91.
It'll be right up.
As a gift from Mr. Roeper, because we waited almost 45 minutes to get a table.
Dinner Rush is beautifully lit and photographed. Notice how the warm and inviting tones of the restaurant contrast with the harsh and bright chaos in the kitchen. One of the many intriguing guests is a barstool-hugging Wall Street exec played by John Corbett from Sex and the City.
I'm just curious here. I'm watching all these people, stargazing potential, you know what I mean?
Director Bob Giraldi has made only one other feature, the forgettable Hiding Out in 1987. He's known mostly for shooting tons of commercials in the 70s and some groundbreaking videos in the 80s, such as Michael Jackson's Beat It. But there's choreography of a different sort on display in Dinner Rush, and I thought it was nothing short of amazing. The richly talented ensemble cast works seamlessly with Giraldi's camera as it glides by mobsters and a cop and a food critic and a sous chef with a gambling problem and various members of the waitstaff. This is one of those movies that perfectly captures its subject, a time and a place when, in the words of one character, dining out has become a Broadway show.
Yeah, you know, this movie really convinced me that it knew a lot about the restaurant business. And Eduardo Ballerini as the chef, he's got that great scene early on where he tells one of his sous chefs, there are only 3 possible answers in this kitchen. Yes, chef, no chef, and I don't know, chef.
That's it.
And he's running that kitchen.
If not, you're out of there.
He's like a little Nazi down there in the kitchen. Meanwhile, his father upstairs has hired another guy to just sneak into the kitchen and make him some sausage and peppers when he wants something.
Yeah, because he can't recognize the food in his own restaurant anymore.
So all of that is going on a very realistic level, while at the same time you have the threat from the mobsters and, and this wonderful performance by Mark Margolis as the art dealer, who is a complete jerk.
Yeah, that's one word. That's one word you can use, or a word we can use. And we really get a sense of what the bartenders and the waitresses and the maitre d', what they think of the customers. You know, most of us have not worked in the restaurant business, or maybe we worked for a little while. We know what it's like to be the customer and think we're the king of this place, and we don't really think about the fact they go back in the kitchen and like, I got this idiot on table 37, or oh, I got to work on table 42, and they never tip, you know. And so it gives us both sides of it and captures it, I thought, just beautifully.
It's a good movie. Coming up next, Richard and I visit the Toronto Film Festival for a preview, basically, of the whole autumn film season.
And looking ahead to next week's openings, we'll review Michael Douglas in the thriller Don't Say a Word.
They're gonna kill her. What is it?
These audiences come to it expecting that the filmmakers were trying to do something good. They may or may not be successful in all aspects of the storytelling, but they are going to be open to a dialogue of discussing the themes of the movies.
The Toronto Film Festival kicks off the autumn movie season every year, and Oscar winners are often seen there first. This year's festival was interrupted, of course, by the tragedy of September the 11th. After a day of mourning, the screenings continued in a quiet and sad city. The great French actress Jean Moreau told me, "Of course we go on. I'm not going to let these bastards hold me hostage."
And Hollywood reacted to the tragedy by postponing the release of several major films. Now, the movies we did see in Toronto, in addition to catching screenings that began at the coffee hour and ran well past midnight, we sat down to talk about movies with stars such as Billy Crudup and Julianne Moore, who we just saw, as well as Steve Martin, Keanu Reeves, Christina Ricci, and Marissa Tomei. And we'll get to those interviews in a bit. But let's talk about the movies first.
Especially during the last half of the festival, I found myself looking for films that made me smile and gave me hope. One of them was Lovely and Amazing by Nicole Holofcener, starring Brenda Blethyn as a mother with 3 daughters, 2 grown, 1 an adopted 9-year-old African-American.
What do? You're thin enough to be an actress. I'm an artist.
I thought you worked at a one-hour photo.
I also admired the funny and touching Last Orders by Fred Skepsey, about 4 old friends played by Michael Caine, Tom Courtenay, Bob Hoskins, and David Hemmings. When one of them dies, the others set out to bury his ashes and reevaluate their own lives.
Ah, Jesus. What now? Search me.
Monsoon Wedding is the new movie by Mira Nair, who has made a delightful romantic comedy about an extended Indian family returning to Bombay for an arranged marriage. The movie is filled with love, intrigue, secrets, last-minute emergencies, and a lot of singing and dancing. One of the most powerful films was The Gray Zone by Tim Blake Nelson, about Jewish prisoners recruited by the Nazis to help run the death camps in return for 4 extra months of life.
The quicker you get undressed, the quicker you'll be clean, settled, and reunited with your family. Filthy liar.
Toronto has no official prizes, but it does have an audience award for the most popular film voted on by the filmgoers themselves, and this year the winner was Amelie, which is just plain brilliant and funny and bursting with life.
I also saw a number of movies that really struck me. In Buffalo Soldiers, Joaquin Phoenix plays a drug-dealing hustler stationed with the Army in Germany in 1989, and Ed Harris is the most ineffectual military leader since Colonel Blake in MASH.
This isn't good, Elwood. Drugs on the base like this. Do you know anything about this? How could someone get drugs in?
I really don't know, sir.
David Lynch returns to his Twin Peaks style with Mulholland Drive, which was deemed too weird to be a television pilot and has been refashioned into a feature that makes sense about half the time but is never dull.
Now you got me scared.
It's hard to imagine Christina Ricci and Jessica Lange not getting Oscar nominations for their roles in Prozac Nation, a relentlessly faithful adaptation of Elizabeth Wurtzel's book about her battles with depression.
Dr. Isaacs warned me.
Mom, I said I'm going.
He told me you'd isolate, stay in your room all day.
I'm not isolating, okay? I'm not going to isolate.
In Training Day, Denzel Washington makes a bold departure from his usual screen persona as he plays a poisonously evil cop in Los Angeles. Ethan Hawke is the young recruit who joins Washington's elite and corrupt team of investigators.
First day on the job, you hit a $3 million seizure.
Now, there are a lot of movies, a ton of movies, that acknowledge the physical beauty of the leading lady, but World Traveler is that rare film in which the characters comment and react to the striking looks of the leading man, Billy Crudup. He's a lifelong screw-up who drifts through life getting by on his face and his occasional flashes of charm.
He says you're married. Saw a picture of your wife and son in your wallet, which she left on a table in the bar.
Julianne Moore co-stars in a supporting role that'll definitely get her a lot of attention. In fact, the studios launching movies at Toronto are counting on the festival as a springboard for their award campaigns. That doesn't mean that I'm going to give thumbs up to each one of these movies when they come out, but they were all the ones we talked about here were really interesting to me.
This was a terrible summer at the movies, and it was so refreshing to get to Toronto and realize that after Labor Day, in a way, good movie season starts, and that you have a pretty good chance of seeing mostly good movies, or at least intelligent and ambitious and hopeful movies by people who wanted to make a good movie all day long.
You made me want to see a lot of the movies, because you saw a lot of movies I didn't see, and I saw a lot of movies you didn't see, and vice versa and all that stuff, so I'm listening to you and watching the clips and thinking, boy, I want to see some of these
films. They
films.
had 280 movies, so I guess nobody saw all of them.
Yeah, it's a tremendous festival. Okay, when we come back, some of the stars and directors we met at Toronto.
There you are. That's not bad.
That's not bad.
I guess the first time I went to the festival, I was 17. But for me, it was a great time because it was a time when music and cinema, for me as a young man, was just, you know, such my focus. And I remember, like, seeing 20 films.
Movie lovers and movie stars from all over the world flocked to the Toronto Film Festival, but for Keanu Reeves, who was in town promoting Hardball, it was a trip back home. There were a lot of big names in Toronto this year. At times, the elevator at the Four Seasons was like the green room for The Tonight Show. And, of course, film critics and entertainment journalists were everywhere. I even bumped into my partner a couple of times, and we took a break from the action to compare notes.
I get me another list of the films I'd missed because the festival was so front-loaded. You know, all the big movies are in the first 3 days.
Now, why do they do that? This is my first time here. You've been here for many years. Why do they put so many of the big interest films early on and then so few later on?
They're thinking we want to get in early, we want to make the film have its impact on the opening weekend so people will talk about it all week. But the problem is, you know, the people are trying to influence, critics, for example, can only be in one place at one time, and so some films are going to be punished.
The first weekend here felt like a junket weekend, really.
It was
because you've got all the 26-year-olds with the headsets and the clipboards, you know, and they're running around there saying, Joaquin is coming downstairs and Sir Anthony is going up here.
One of the standout performances for me was by Christina Ricci in Prozac Nation, playing a young woman who in some ways is the author of her own misery.
This must have taken a lot out of you.
Yes. Yeah, I was pretty much a wreck for most of the filming. I sound so melodramatic when I talk about it, but it was kind of traumatizing. And I just didn't know. I just didn't realize it was going to be so hard.
Another outstanding performance was by Steve Martin in Novocaine, playing a dentist who falls head over heels in love with a Hellcat patient played by Helena Bonham Carter. That leads him into an unexpected life of crime as he digs himself deeper and deeper into a cavity of trouble. Martin himself said he's digging deeper for the right roles.
You know, sometimes I feel like I'm expected to do a certain kind of comedy, but the suit doesn't fit all the time. And to continue doing the same thing, it's like people think they want it, but if you actually do it, they're looking for younger, fresher faces. And as a comedian, I really have to work hard to find a new angle that is still within the realm of my own character and body.
Until the tragedy, there were nonstop parties and dinners at Toronto with guests like director Norman Jewison, one of Toronto's native sons. And I ran into Norman Jewison, the great Canadian director, who told me he thought the last 2 years of mainstream Hollywood product were the worst 2 years in Hollywood history. Wow. And that Hollywood has essentially given up trying to make good films, except right at the end of the year for the Oscars, and they're just going after winning the weekend with the teenage demographic segment of the...
And not only just winning the weekend in North America, but they're looking at it, will this play in Malaysia? Yeah. And will this, so it has to be really simplistic because it's going to be an action film or it's going to be a dumbed-down thing so that it can play all over the world so you get the worldwide grosses. One film that bucks that trend is In the Bedroom, the powerful and disturbing directorial debut by character actor Todd Field. Marissa Tomei has a key role as the older girlfriend of a college student, and she told me about the challenges of making the film.
Todd, being an actor, was one of my favorite things about him directing the movie. The only caveat to that is, as an actor, he only gave me 2 days to prepare. I mean, what was he thinking? Normally I wouldn't have accepted the part because I was just, the material was great, but I was scared of it, but it was too great to not do it.
Movies like In the Bedroom, Prozac Nation don't have the $40 million budgets to force you into the theater, and so a festival like Toronto makes a great launching pad for them. There are movies that are alive. They seem to have free will. As they go along, you and the movie don't know what's going to happen next. And that's what I really am grateful for. Okay, recapping this week's movies, 2 big thumbs up for Hearts in Atlantis, which opens next week. 2 more thumbs up for The Killing Yard, which airs on Showtime starting Sunday, September 23rd. And 2 thumbs up for Dinner Rush, opening next week in New York and then going around the country.
Remember, you can hear our reviews at Ebert-Roeper-movies.com and rate us in print at suntimes.com. Next week, we'll be back with Ben Stiller and Owen Wilson in the satire Zoolander. And until then, the balcony is closed.
You know, I think a lot of people would say that Stephen King's best movie adaptation was The Shawshank Redemption, but I think Hearts in Atlantis comes in right underneath that.
And then you think there's The Green Mile is another real terrific movie.
Dead Zone.
Stand By Me. So you have all these scary movies that are based on Stephen King novels, but then you have all these more substantial films.
A lot of King movies. You can have a festival of bad Stephen King movies.
1-800-CONTACTS. Exact same contact lenses delivered to your door for less than you're paying now. Call 1-800-CONTACTS. We deliver. You save.
Facts of Life by Lysol. Fact, pick up toys and you could pick up something else.
My tummy hurts.
Fact, Lysol kills rotavirus, the stomach bug. Life demands Lysol. That's a fact.
Conair makes big news in dryers. Dry and Straight, a patented pop-up concentrator, gives you 20% more focused airflow to shine, straighten fast.
These babies were conceived using the Clear Plan Easy Fertility Monitor. It identifies more fertile days each cycle than any leading method. Clear Plan, clear results.
Closed captioning for Ebert and Roeper is brought to you by...
Regular oil changes make a big difference. Get one at Meineke, and they'll throw in free wiper blades.
At Meineke, you won't pay a lot, but you'll get a lot.